Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. If you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic which stands,
one nation, under God,
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're going to have to work on this Pledge of Allegiance routine. We're not doing good. All right, I don't have the agenda with me, but I think the only order of business is considering a resolution and a transmittal letter to the county concerning the crossdock facility that's being proposed on Camelback Road. I think everyone here received various information from staff concerning the proposal, and I'm sure all of you have seen the various emails and letters that have come in from members of our community who are very concerned about the impact of that facility and its impact on traffic on Camelback Road. So, I'm going to open it up for discussion, and if there's anyone who has any questions or has anything they would like to specifically talk about, please let me know, and we'll recognize you. Councilman Donahue.
So I guess my question is, how deep is this? How far along is this? Is this literally, if people had not protested and had not found out about this, our county supervisor is going to approve this month?
Actually in May, but yes, in about 10 days, 2 weeks.
So I know that, luckily our citizens, the match was lit and people took off, but that was by accident that people found out, correct? I mean, there hasn't been.
Yeah, it was by accident. It was by accident that the city found out. We ended up getting a notice that was not intended to come to us, and then because of the notice, we started looking into it. We had published a letter to the county in opposition that went from staff to the county staff. I also started talking with Clint Hickman and his office, both because of a concern about the development and also a concern that we were not included in the citizen participation meetings that had been put together to get input on this as part of the planning process. We were not included in that. So there have been a variety of conversations that had gotten started, I believe in January, just to pick a date, but it could have been December or January, that kind of a time frame. Then information started getting out, and we started receiving comments from different residents. Initially the residents were more from Palm Valley than they were from Litchfield, but eventually we started getting some comments from people that live in the Greens. So it gets kind of built, and it's built from there.
Yeah, because I noticed one of the comments from Sean Walters was there had not been much community input. Well, I think it's because people didn't know about it clearly, but I think that's changed. All right.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. If I remember right, didn't this whole thing start by one of our citizens contacting us and saying, hey, I've heard about this crossdock facility. Our staff got hold of the county, and the county said they have nothing, they know nothing about it. And then this thing did pop up maybe 2 to 4 weeks again later.
I'm not sure. I know that there was a citizen that came up and asked us about it in the early days. I don't know if that was just before or just after we actually received some type of notice. And maybe the city manager can weigh in on that, since he and Mr. Scouten were more involved in it. Mr. City Manager.
Honorable Mayor and Council, thank you. So we were inadvertently copied on a email about the crossdock facility relative to the flood district, and approximately 3 to 4 working days later, I got the email from you, Mr. Vice Mayor, from one of our citizens who actually had more detail. The original email wasn't readily apparent to us on staff that we were talking about a truck facility on the Falcon Golf Course. Although if you go back and look at it, then you'll say, well, gee, it was pretty clear. Well, it wasn't clear to us initially because we hadn't been brought in on any of the discussions. So it was kind of a surprise. It was new to us. And so That added with the citizen input that you provided, Vice Mayor, is what helped us realize, oh, this is what we're talking about. And then we engaged the county and got more involved.
Yeah, that was Elliot Fryreich, who was racing next door over there and heard the rumor mill.
Correct.
Yeah. Councilman Clare.
So my understanding was that this is going to end up being a FedEx facility. And even if we restrict truck sizes, I used to own some FedEx routes back in Dallas, and their trucks are going to be underneath whatever we restrict. So there'll be no way to just restrict those trucks from passing through because they'll be basically the delivery trucks coming in and out of there. I'm sure the 18-wheelers will go in and out to the 303, but it'll end up being the delivery trucks coming out, and we won't be able to restrict those because they're all small based on size. The other thing is I talked to Todd Canterbury over at Luke, and he said that their community initiatives office said that the general plan identifies Camelback as a truck route. And that's one of the reasons this is happening. And we need to see if there's any way we can get that truck route off of Camelback entirely, because that's part of we're not going to be able to do any type of restriction based on size that'll stop FedEx delivery trucks from going through.
The truck route designation is something from the city of Goodyear as part of their transportation plan. And I'm sure it's there because of the 303. So that issue is one of the city of Goodyear. It is not a truck route. I don't believe, based on in our transportation plan. That's the only truck route we have is Litchfield Road, which we've just started the process of changing over to Dysart. So we were told by the developer, and you can take this with a grain of sand, that everything that was going to go through that facility was going to be on a pallet. There was not going to be any unpalletized loads coming in or going out, and that they have a facility that's I think they said it was Buckeye and 202 that is devoted to taking pallets and breaking them down into the smaller units that are then get delivered to most of their customers. The only deliveries that would be going out of this facility would be deliveries that were going to be made on a pallet. So that would probably make it not a normal small FedEx kind of a truck, but a larger truck. The drawing that I've seen for the site plan, the way that things are described for parking does not look necessarily like it would be set up for parking smaller trucks and waiting for those kinds of deliveries. It looks more like maybe Class 6 trucks, but I don't know. I couldn't see enough detail to really make sure that that's really what I saw, and I don't know that the site plan's finalized anyway. So the most we can do is whatever we can do to control use of Camelback, and we're talking about it in terms of commercial trucks, I believe, not necessarily the size of those trucks. Is my recollection correct, Susan?
Oh, I think it's size of the trucks. I would have to pull it up.
Well, we have size of the trucks when it comes to being downtown and making deliveries downtown, and restricting that size to be basically a Class 6 truck. But I thought that our prohibition on through commercial trucks was more of a general prohibition.
I'm pulling it up. Your current prohibition says that the axle loads and gross weight and loads of any truck or trucks and load driven upon city streets shall not exceed the loads and weights set forth in a statute, Title 28, the provisions of which are adopted by references are fully contained in this article. So I've forgotten, I mean, that's what your current ordinance says. And I can pull up Title 28 just to.
That's not the prohibition part. That's just telling people that they can't drive trucks that are overweight, overloaded, over the state limit on our city streets. There's a section in there that'll talk about through trucks. We don't need to do this now because it's not really part of this agenda item. We'll do whatever we can do, Ron, or Councilman Clare, we'll do whatever we can do to try to restrict excess traffic on Camelback Road from commercial trucks. If it ends up that we can't do that, then we're not any worse off than we would have been. The first line of defense is to try to get the county not to approve this.
So I have another question. So the golf course is for sale. They have this group has not purchased it yet. It's all going to be according to whether or not they can do this. Is that where we are?
I don't know that we know that. That would be typical of the way these things are done, is you would have this in escrow waiting for entitlements. But I don't know that we have any knowledge of that one way or the other.
Mr. Mayor, this is Woody.
Yes,
Mr.
Woody,
Mayor?
please. Yes.
Yes, the golf course property was sold to somebody named Cowley in 2016. And Cowley is listed on the county application as the second developer.
All right. So now we do know it's not an escrow, but it's the developer's trying to get approval of doing it. Any other questions or comments on the resolution or the letter?
Mr. Mayor, if I could, John.
Yes, Councilman Romack, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. I think we all have a copy of the letter that was written from the city of Goodyear. And if you read that and listened to a council meeting the other day, they had a pretty good discussion of this whole issue. And from where I'm sitting, I have a couple of issues. One is how can not lessen what's going on with a property like this and ignore us? I find it to be very offensive. But also that the city of Goodyear did a good job in saying, no, we don't want this to happen. But if it does happen, here's a list of things that we're gonna push for. And obviously being Camelback, particularly to the west, was one of the issues, so that we can get the 18-wheelers really going west instead of turning east and having a divided highway there, and have Camelback basically near Indian School, where you have really limited access as far as turning left or left turns or turning around or anything. I would encourage us to look at their response and have something similar. Thank you.
And we actually have gone through their response. I've read it quite a number of times. Just a couple of comments. One is that their response before this was not in opposition. The most they were going to say as of even 2 weeks ago was that they were going to ask the county to go slower and maybe postpone this for a bit, but they were not in opposition to it as of 2 weeks ago. So they have changed their position, which is good. It makes it a lot more difficult for the county, I think, with Goodyear and Litchfield both being against the project. It's a lot more difficult for the county to approve it. Doesn't say they won't approve it. And certainly they've done things like that in the past, but I think it makes it more politically difficult. The only we could put in conditions also, but I think the only condition that would really resolve this in a way that our citizens would accept is if we were to put the condition on that all truck ingress and egress must be from 303. That it has to all come in from the west, and it has to all go to the west. None of it is allowed to come in or go from the east. If we had that condition on it, then it wouldn't be impactful to us. So other than to add something like that to the letter, I don't. That's the only thing. That's the only condition that would at least put it to the point where I would be neutral on it.
Is the condition doable?
What was the question?
Is that a condition that is actually doable?
Ask Woody. I mean, I don't know if the county would do it, but I don't know the technical side of what other things, other traffic might come out and have to go east. Woody's the one that studied the traffic report.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is Woody. The new report changes the traffic distribution for the trucks to 90% west, 10% east. So there's, even if you believe their numbers, there's still 158 trucks a day coming through Litchfield Park from this project. I would think that the restriction on direction would have to be a county condition, and it should really be coming from the city of Goodyear because they control access to that portion of Camelback Road. But we can certainly ask the county to add that condition.
So, you know, I'm happy to make that modification if you would like to see that, Councilman Romack.
Sure. Okay, good.
Question?
Mr. Vice Mayor.
So is the stipulation that we're asking for is that they have a right out only turn lane or something coming out of that facility?
Well, correct. We would want, I think, what you want is just, it would specify that all trucks coming egress and ingress are coming from the west. So, because we don't want semis coming down Camelback from 101 for some reason and coming down Camelback to go to that facility.
So maybe we're asking for a right out only and some kind of signage so that the truck drivers know that?
Well, it's all FedEx trucks, so I would think you have FedEx would agree to it. It'd be part of their obligation as as owning the trucks not to go that way. And if they went that way, we'd stop them and cite them.
So I can see then they're going to take a right out of there, go down to Saraville, take a left and go down Indian School. Same, type of thing, but we can't control that, I guess. To get to the
No, and I would be surprised if Goodyear would let them go down Indian School.
right. Yeah. So
I mean, it makes more sense just go to the 303.
Yeah.
If I may, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Romack.
to go down 303 today is really not reasonable. It's a 2-lane road. There's a stop sign at Saraville. So that they would have a real nightmare as far as drainage, the tailwater, how they're going to handle the Bullard Wash, all of that going west to 303. However, to me, that's the only option. If they're going to do this, that would be the only option that they have is to go west, but it would have to be improved. Normal improvements are done by the developers as they develop a piece of property adjoining, let's say, Camelback. Well, I don't think the city of Goodyear, and I know the city of Litchfield Park, is not in a position to be putting in those kind of improvements all the way out to 3. But that would be a stipulation that if it's going to happen, would have to occur to get my vote. Thank you.
And I think that's what Goodyear has put in terms of their conditions. Is that one of their conditions is to improve Camelback from the site all the way out to the 303, including signalizing at Saraville.
The traffic report and the response to it, maybe it was drafted by Woody, indicates that traffic sign is going to have a backup that's going to be massive.
That's correct.
It needs to be signalized. So that,
Yeah,
I mean,
Mr. Mayor?
that's what Goodyear has asked for. Yes, Mr. Scouten.
One thing that the traffic report wasn't required by the county to look at any of the adjoining intersections, including Saraville, but also Litchfield Road. my concern is that all of this additional traffic, again, even if not the trucks are driving through Litchfield Park, so many of the trucks, but now we're up to 6,048 trips a day from this facility. And, roughly at least half of those, even if they're just cars, are going to be going through Litchfield Park on Camelback Road. That may mean that we now have a problem at the Camelback Litchfield intersection with not enough green time for left turns. And we may have to make adjustments to that intersection to offset all this additional traffic. These are things that the county hasn't considered that are impacts to the local cities by this traffic, because they haven't required the developer to look at the adjoining intersections and how it's going to impact them.
Yeah, they're doing a poor job.
So I do have a question. So who pays that Sarahville Camelback Road improved? Is it City of Goodyear? Is it the developer? Who pays for that?
Normally, it's the developer. Each developer on each corner will pay for a fourth of that intersection. That's what it's normally done. You have four corners, you get four developers. They split it in 25% each. But the problem is that there are no developers that are doing anything today at those at that intersection. So that would leave it not to be done at all, unless it was somehow made a condition of this development by FedEx.
Tom,
Councilman Clare.
one of the things that was said earlier, and I just want to make sure I understand, I didn't think about this initially, was we've always talked about trucks coming out, but and you mentioned trucks going into the facility as well. And they might not be FedEx trucks going into the facility. And are we stipulating that any trucks going into the facility have to enter from the west as well?
That was my suggestion. I mean, it may or may not be a good suggestion, but the way to eliminate the impact of the trucks on Litchfield is if you make all ingress and egress only from the west.
I agree. As tight a noose as we can make around it, so that it's hard for them to accept it, the better it is.
Basically, that's what Goodyear has done with the conditions that they put on in their letter. I mean, that the cost to do the development of Camelback Road, both sides of the street, all the way down to 303, including two signals, would be tremendous. Now, just obviously FedEx can afford tremendous, but whether they would choose to do that, who knows?
There's problems associated with them attempting to do that, because some of that right of way is owned by Adamant, and there is a water delivery ditch in it. And moving that ditch and repiping that is massively expensive.
Yeah, I mean, they want sidewalks and curbs and gutters, they want everything. So all of that, that's what they've asked for in the condition.
Yeah, the pavement would be over that big old massive ditch that's sitting there. It has to be moved, and that property is actually owned by Adamant.
Hmm. Any other comments or suggestions for things you'd like to see in this letter or resolution? Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to remind everyone that there's a public hearing for the planning and zoning for the county and for the Board of Supervisors that you can register to make comment in the meeting. So if you have additional concerns, you actually want to communicate directly to the county in addition to this letter, then you can do so.
I do have a question for the city manager about that. I didn't people ask me, when you register, will it tell them and how many people are? I mean, there's some people think that there's a way to calculate that so they'll see of people. I don't know.
That I don't know. I registered, and all it does is it takes care of you individually and says you're registered, and then you get an email from them that gives you some basic information about during the meeting.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so is there a motion to adopt the resolution 20-465 with the modification that we're going to add in a request for a condition that all ingress and egress be from the west of the facility?
Mr. Mayor, the resolution, just there's a resolution opposing the requests. I'm just throwing this out. The requests are in the letter. We haven't detailed any requested conditions yet in the resolution, but we could add them.
All right, yeah, I suppose that's true. We can leave the resolution like it is and just put it in the letter. Yes? All right, so is there a motion to adopt the resolution 20-465 that's been provided to you?
So moved.
Councilman Clare,
Second.
is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Vice Mayor. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
We'll have to go through roll call. So we'll start with Councilman Clare.
Aye.
Councilman Donahue.
Aye.
Councilman Romack.
Aye.
Vice Mayor.
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so that's 5-0 with 2 council members being absent. The next is a resolution by council authorizing the mayor to send a letter transmitting this resolution 20-465, expressing some of our reasons for asking them to deny the proposal. And in that letter, we'll add in a provision at the end that talks about a condition adopting all of the conditions from requested by the city of Goodyear and adding in a condition for ingress and egress only coming from the direction of the 303. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, are there any, is there any conversation or discussion about the motion for the letter? If not, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Councilman
Aye.
Clare.
Aye.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Aye.
Councilman Donahue.
Aye.
Councilman Romack. Councilman Romack.
Aye, yes. Am I muted?
Okay. I don't know what it was. I thought I saw your lips moving, but I heard nothing. All right, I'm an aye, so that's 5-0 with two councilmen being absent. Is there anything else we need to discuss today? And if not, is there a motion to adjourn?
Quick question. Can we get
Yes.
can we get a copy of this out that we can get out to our public, that we can get out to either social media or different ways, so we can let the people see that we are working for them on this?
Yeah, what I will do is once we get the resolution done and in final form, and I've actually signed it, and once the letter is finished and I've signed it, then we'll post that on our website and our social media sites. I'll send it out to the people that I normally send out to on my email list, and all of you are invited to do the same. So you'll have copies of it.
Thank you.
Can we also have Bill send a copy to the half a dozen citizens who have emailed all of us?
Yeah.
Sure. We can do that.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Councilman Clare.
Aye.
Councilman Donahue.
Aye.
Councilman Romack. Mr. Vice Mayor.
I didn't see John's lips move that time.
Did I?
I heard a grunt. All right. It carries unanimously 5-0. We're adjourned. Thank you for coming to the special meeting. We'll get this out.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you, guys.